Hello and welcome to The Review, where quality and trust come together. Each week we'll deliver new insights about strengthening your business through continual improvement, creating a safer, more secure world. I'm your host for this show, Randy Daugharthy, Vice President of Business Development for the Performance Review Institute. Today we're joined by Justin McCabe, who is our Operating Manager of the MedAccred program. This is the buzz in the industry right now, supplier resiliency. Coming out of COVID, there was such a strain on supply chains in all industry types and all geographies. So what is our role there? What have we been doing with supply chain resiliency?
So I keep thinking that MedAccred was ahead of our time, or ahead of the times.
Yeah.
I think even before supply chain resiliency was top of mind within the medical device industry and in industries around the world. MedAccred and NADCAP and other PRI industry managed programs were really driving resiliency into the supply chains of these industries. Mm-hmm. So really this is, we're doing what we had been doing prior to the pandemic, right. But doing it through a resilience lens and really highlighting different aspects of the program, right. that maybe we hadn't been highlighting previously, but really we're adding value and creating a more resilient supply chain for these med device companies. So really, what are we doing? So we've been, as I mentioned, we have been working with U.S. Department of Commerce for a number of years to help them develop this MedMap program to help small and medium-sized manufacturers to on their MedAccred journey, and ultimately help those suppliers get MedAccred accredited. And I've also mentioned that we've been talking to FDA about MedAccred and various aspects of that. So a few years ago, we started to bring FDA and Commerce and MedAccred together to try and figure out, where are some synergies between our organizations and programs. And really this resiliency topic is where I think, all those different points align.
Right.
And about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, FDA suggested that MedAccred chair a working group that would be focused on identifying best practices in quality in the supply chain and also resiliency. Right. And so about 9 months ago, we kicked off this working group, really focusing on driving quality through the tiers in the supply chain within the medical device industry. So if you look at where a lot of the quality issues are arising, where FDA is finding issues in the industry, where OEMs are identifying problems, it's in those sub-tier suppliers, and they call them we call it the tier N suppliers. So right. The tier 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. It's not usually the tier 1s and 2s where you're seeing that. So, and that's really where MedAccred fits in nicely, because our audit process is being applied through the tiers. So when you're talking about a heat treating process or welding process, mm-hmm. those are usually done further down right. in the supply chain. And that's really where this working group is focused on. If we can drive quality down into those further tiers of the supply chain, that will ultimately result in a higher quality product in the end, and a more resilient supply chain up and down, mm-hmm. That benefits the OEM and the industry overall. So we kicked off this working group about 9 months ago with FDA involvement, U.S. Department of Commerce, NIST, Medical Device Innovation Consortium, MDIC, and med device OEMs, CMs, and suppliers. So we have Baxter and Edwards and Stryker actively participating, Benchmark, and then even some of those lower tier suppliers really identifying how can we help the industry to drive quality through the tiers in the supply chain, MedAccred being one of the ways to do that. So what we're trying to do is create more awareness of the value MedAccred can bring to the industry, also to remove barriers to helping med device companies use MedAccred. So FDA has provided some clarification on the regulations for purchasing controls and how MedAccred can align with how companies oversee their supply chains. Also, we talked about the critical processes earlier. What are those critical processes that are most, where is the most risk for industry? So our working group identified sterilization, sterile device packaging, plastics injection molding, and printed board assembly as those top processes where if we can really drive quality into those processes on a global scale and give manufacturers multiple options for identifying new highly qualified suppliers, that really will drive resiliency into the supply chain. So we're doing a lot of things with the working group to, again, support driving quality through the tiers in the supply chain and coming up with recommendations that we can share with industry to help.
So a lot of collaboration with all stakeholders to actually drive the message of quality, but also the supply chain management too. So, not just one supplier, maybe not one geography, there's also visibility because we have a way that somebody could go and look, well, which companies are accredited to which critical processes.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that.
Right. Yeah, there are, I think like four buckets that we see MedAccred really aligning with the supply chain resilience efforts underway. So one is visibility, another is flexibility, another is control, and then collaboration. So from a visibility perspective, so each supplier or manufacturer who achieves MedAccred accreditation goes on what we call a qualified manufacturer list that is visible and accessible to all of our subscriber company representatives. So if Stryker is looking for an injection molding supplier in Malaysia, for example, they can do a search and see who's accredited in Malaysia, because we're trying to source a supplier there. And so, that qualified manufacturer list gives Stryker and our other subscribers, incredible visibility of their current suppliers on their ASLs, but also additional suppliers that they may not be doing work with at the moment. So from a visibility perspective, that QML is very powerful to the subscribers. We've also recently opened that list up to the broader public, so that at a high level, any company, any individual who wants to know who's on that list, they can see it. They can't see the audit details behind it, but they can at least see who those suppliers who have met that high bar are.
Yeah, and it's site by site. It's not
right.
So each site has to carry its own accreditation. You can't say, "Oh, I got one site, so I'm good through the world."
Right.
It's not that kind. It's a site specific audit.
Right. There's one example. We have a lot of accredited suppliers, but there's one contract manufacturer that has, I think, 7 or 8 different accreditations. They have one site in Tijuana, Mexico, that is accredited for printed board assembly and injection molding, and they're just now going for their sterile device packaging accreditation as well. So that was the visibility. The flexibility is, again, if you're trying to identify new suppliers, if you're reshoring or onshoring, or maybe even you're a startup company and you're just trying to weed through a huge list of potential contract manufacturers or suppliers out there, where do you start? So yes, there's a 13485 or 9001 bar that you could look at, which is valid. You'll at least know a company has a strong foundation. But then if you see if they, on top of that, have a MedAccred accreditation, that gives you even more confidence that this supplier has full capability for that process.
They've demonstrated.
We don't have to guess. They say they're an injection molder, but can they do it? So that's where the flexibility comes in, and it can help companies move from a single source strategy to maybe more of a dual or multi-sourced supplier strategy. The control piece of where MedAccred fits in is really at the deep dive technical level. So if you're a subscriber to MedAccred and say there's a contract sterilizer that you want to work with, or maybe that you're already partnering with, and you can look at the audit results for that
Mhm.
supplier and know on an annual basis and even in between audits. If quality issues are identified in between that annual assessment, we can still go in and do a spot check to make sure that they're meeting the requirements. But from a control perspective, we really give our OEM subscribers great access to very detailed technical data regarding a supplier's health and performance. And then finally, on the collaboration side, I think it's probably been
You talked a lot about
weaved
yeah.
through the whole conversation here this morning. That's really that's
role.
really where we
I think that's
excel.
our role is that we're administering the program, right, for the industry,
Right.
industry managed program,
Right.
and we bring all those stakeholders together, which you've done a great job at in bringing them together and coming to consensus and running a governance program,
Right.
and really building the program from the ground up.
Right. Right. So yeah, we're a very unique space where industry can come together, share best practices, really as an industry raise the bar for quality. It gives the OEM subscribers greater access to the supplier. So many times the OEM doesn't know who that tier 5 heat treater is.
Right.
But when they're sitting across the table at each other, developing that audit criteria, now Stryker knows who
Right.
his or her heat treater is that has been making parts for their products over the years. Oh, now they have that relationship. Really supports collaboration, from an OEM and supplier perspective. Right. Also from an OEM to OEM, competimates kind of perspective, where now Stryker and J&J and others can, now learn from each other, and instead of competing on quality, they can collaborate on quality, because that's really going to help the industry overall and patients ultimately.
Well, and I think that's the kind of the wrap, the ribbon is it's patient safety, right?
Right.
That's really what the objective is. That's why the regulatory bodies are involved. That's what the OEMs want, the CMs, the supply chain. It's all about patient safety. And quality has moved from quality control to quality assurance, which is the management system. And so now we're moved into more of the risk management. Supply chain risk management and product risk management are part of the resiliency, part of the overall recipe for a final good product.
Right.
So if a company was interested in, let's say, MedAccred accreditation, how would they find us?
Well, they would first come and talk to me.
Yep.
or you, Randy. We'll get them connected into our eAuditNet system. And once you have an account created in there, you can get a quote generated to see what the costs and time requirements would be for an audit, and we get you the audit criteria and get your audit scheduled and
get you accredited.
Yep. So our website is a great resource. Yep. And also we can connect them to our business development team and help them along the way as well.
Absolutely. Well, Justin, thank you very much for your time. This has been a great conversation. A lot of really good information about the program and really where it's heading, because it's still at the front end of the development or the life curve. And I think what we're seeing now is a lot more engagement, a lot more interest, because the final product, and like we said, the risk and the patient safety and legal issues and liability,
right.
It's just, it all leads to the right direction for the suppliers as well as the OEMs.
Right. I did just one last thing just to kind of tie this up. We talked about MedAccred building on the success of the aerospace industry, right? Our NADCAP program is really ubiquitous in the aerospace industry. Yep. So if you're a critical process supplier and you want to supply into Boeing or Airbus or NASA or Lockheed Martin, you need to have a NADCAP accreditation. And our NADCAP program is conducting, I think, over 7,000 audits a year.
Yes.
We have 50 or 60 subscribing companies. It's a
global program.
Yeah, it is the ticket into the door for aerospace manufacturing. And that's really where we're going with MedAccred. So right now we have 9 OEM subscribers. We're doing around 100 audits a year. But the goal is to have the med device industry as a whole really engaging in the MedAccred program, whether you're a large OEM, contract manufacturer, a startup company. MedAccred is really a great tool to use to oversee your supply chains as well as support sourcing, R&D, and even new product development teams. So it is getting a lot of, I think, positive visibility out there today. And I'm really excited to see where the program's going to go.
Well, thank you for all your great work, because you've been kind of the champion of this program for many years now, and you know all the stakeholders. You've put it all together. So congratulations, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to what's next.
You're listening to The Review, a podcast by the Performance Review Institute. I'm your host, Randy Daugharthy. Thank you for listening. Learn more about The Review at e-r-i.org.